Hello there everyone, it's me Harry, and today for day 18 of the Mediavent calendar, we're going to be taking a look at Asterix games and Dragon Ball games. I'm doing this in two parts because it would be a little bit too short otherwise if I did both of them separately, but still, let's get on with it. And we're going to start off with one PS1 title, just simply titled Asterix. This is a real-time strategy game. Developed by Sorcery Development, published by Infogrames, released in 1999. So, at that time, Infogrames didn't really publish many PS1 titles, but by then they were starting to publish a few more, and then when they bought out more publishers, that's when they started releasing more games, and they continued to do so. And then, of course, they rebranded as Atari, and as such, they released Asterix and Obelix XXL for the PlayStation 2 in November of 2003. So this is a game where you control either Asterix or Obelix and defeat all those Romans. It's mostly like a beat-em-up platformer where you can battle up to 70 Romans on screen. So normally when you're controlling one of the other characters, the other's controlled using the CPU. Pretty cool, actually. But even then, it's only a single-player game. So a friend wouldn't be helping you out with it. And then a couple of months later came the GameCube port of the game, which is pretty much the same game, but with some enhancements to the graphics and less frame rate drops. The GameCube version is a lot harder to find than the PS2 version. It was only released in Europe and only in the UK, Germany, and France, from what I can guess. It may have had some other releases, but I don't know for sure. And in 2005, we got Asterix and Obelix XXL2 Mission Las Vegas, a video game parody title. So both the XXL and XXL2 games were done by a company called I can't pronounce their name. It's a French developer. Étranges libellules, which means strange dragonflies. So the game originally came out in 2005 in most territories, and then in the UK it came out in 2006. And it's promoted as being the very first video game parody, which is interesting. Asterix at the Olympic Games, also from the same developer, Étranges libellules, can't pronounce it, and once again published by Atari. This was the last of the console Asterix games published by Infogrames-Atari. The last title they released overall was Asterix Brain Trainer on the DS, which was licensed from Abuman Interactive. And then eventually they became Microids, and then they were purchased out by the company that owns Asterix. So Microids is the current publisher behind the Asterix games. And they did remaster the first two XXL titles and made a third one. They haven't remastered this game, interestingly enough. And this is sort of like XXL3 before there was an XXL3. But it uses like a combination of the CGI Asterix and Obelix and whatnot, and live actors from the Asterix at the Olympic Games movie itself. Here's the Wii version of the game. It's very similar, but uses motion controls for its mini-games. The disc is in both French and English. Although my copy of the PS2 version is in... The packaging's in English, but the disc's in French. So, there we are. And now there we are. That's the Asterix games done. And now let's go over to Dragon Ball Z titles. So here is Dragon Ball Z Budokai for the Nintendo GameCube, released in 2003. It came out a year after the PS2 version. So the GameCube version of Budokai has enhanced graphics and some additional features. It also has the Japanese voice actors. I think the European PS2 version had that as well. So, but it used its own translation rather than using the English script. So this was developed by Dimps, published by Bandai, distributed by Atari. And then Budokai 2 also had the same thing as well, where the GameCube version had some additional features, but I don't have that yet. Here is Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3, also from Dimps and Bandai and Atari, released in 2004. There were two versions of this game. This is the normal version, which has the English dub voice actors. And then there was also a collector's edition, which was also available through the Platinum lineup, which had the Japanese voice actors, and you could change between any one of them. So this was the first Dragon Ball Z title to use the Funimation voice actors in Europe, because as I've said before, previous titles just used the Japanese actors. And the normal version of this is a lot more easier to find than the limited edition version. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, or Dragon Ball Z Sparkling in Japan, from the developer Spike, and published once again by Bandai, distributed by Atari, as before. So this was a PS2 exclusive, and it was one of 3 PS2 exclusive Dragon Ball titles, the other ones being the console port of Super Dragon Ball Z, an arcade game, and Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, which was the 4th title in the standard Budokai series. And then we have, lastly for this video, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, which also had a Wii port, developed once again by Spike and published by Namco Bandai Games, distributed by Atari once again. Released in 2006 and released on the Wii in 2007. The Wii version's a lot more easier to find. And one thing that is commonplace with Dragon Ball titles is that if you had the original Budokai Tenkaichi on your game save, you would get an additional thing on it, and then with Budokai Tenkaichi 3, it would be the same as well if you had the previous 2 titles. So yeah, I don't have that one yet because I'm trying to find it. The PS2 version's very expensive. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.